Hello, we are working in Access and just starting out, so I'm going to explain some general information about Access. I downloaded our project as an example, and we'll go ahead and work through it. I have saved this file already with a 2 in front of it, so you can see that you can do a save as just like in other applications, and you can put your change your 1 to a 2 and go on through that. And I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that. And then these over here on the left hand side are everything is held in one file. That file you can look at and you can see the size of it, and it grows as you put things into it, but it holds tables, forms, reports, and queries, and other things as well, but those are what we'll be working with. You can open these up very easily by double clicking. You can close them by clicking on the X or right-clicking on the tab and say close, or if there's multiple ones, close all. The difference in between a double click to open, which is default the design view, the data sheet view. Here is design view. And you can see this icon changes to what it's needed. You can just click on the icon, or you can go down arrow and you can choose either one as well. And down at the bottom right hand corner you'll see also design view and data sheet view as well. So the other way to get in is you can click on the table right click or any of the projects or any of the objects and open in design view as well. So those are the ways. Data types, you can see these are the different data types that are here. Short text, just exactly what it is, about 255 characters. Long text, about 65,000 characters. So a little bit of difference there. Different number options, date options, auto number. So we have, and then calculate and lookup we will cover later. So that's just the current overview. You can see that there are some common ones, but also some different ones that we haven't seen before. You can see when we're in design view, it has different layout, primary key, and you can see the primary key of patient ID that uses just one of those for each table, and it cannot repeat. So if I was to go to data sheet view, here's the data for that table. Every row is a record, and these are the field names or caption options. And the list of what's in that column is the field data. So a row is a record, and each item in the field is an item of a record. Okay, a piece of data in the record. And you can see once again the different. This is a much bigger table, so tables should not have repeating data. The only thing that might help you out is that their tables are related with the primary key and then a secondary key. Excuse me. Professional staff, if I double click and open those, you see that it has its own primary key as well as the clinic ID. And there's clinic ID 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and here's the clinics where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are related. That's why it's called a relational database. And you can see that this data then does not have to repeat in every table. You use the tables for common data of different objects. So I'm going to go right click up here and close all so we can work down here. One of your instructions is to change a name. So if I right click on any of the objects' names, I can rename any of those. And if I hit enter, it accepts that name. If I'm going to do a wizard, there's a couple different ways of creating wizards. I'm going to go ahead and click on my patients tables because that's the data I'm working with. And then if we go to create, there are multiple things that we can create. We can create tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and code. We're going to use a query wizard to quickly create a query. Most of the time in the next chapter we'll use query design. But query wizard, this is where you can do a simple query, which we're going to do. Crosstab is in the next chapter, and you can see duplicates or unmatched options there as well. So simple query wizard, I'll say OK, and we are supposed to choose the patient ID, first name and last name. Really it's all the fields. I can do one at a time, or I can do them all at once. You can see that this is the correct table, but table or queries can be listed that are here. And next, I'm going to open the query and view it. What title do I want for my query? This option for the title is okay. We're going to name the query though in a different thing. So if I go finish, you can see that this is a patient's query, and if I put the title, I could have named that with the title as well. But let's go ahead, and if we right click on here, we can use the query name. Now this is very important because if you misspell or do not type these in correctly, you can't do it while it's open. So let's close it. You can rename this, and if I was going to find it, I need to make sure that there is no spaces and it says listing, not listings, but listing. So patient, and see the S that's still there? Make sure you remove that for its patient listings. Otherwise, when it's corrected, it will not find the query. So everything has to be exact. So when we open it, we can see, and that's the name of it, patient ID, first name and last name. There we go. Okay, so the next thing that we're, and then of course we'll close it. And the next thing that we are working towards is to create a, excuse me, a form. So let's go ahead and say on our options, we're going to do the family option. So if we click on family, we can go directly to it. Otherwise, we'd have to choose it like I showed you how to do in the query. But when we're working with using a form tool, we can just say form. It'll take all the data that's in that table and create the form. So I'm just going to click on it, and all the data that's in there then creates the form. And you can see the properties sheet that pops up. If you don't, you can right click here and show properties. Down at the bottom you can see, mine's a little bit cut off, but which records you are. We have 1 of 26. You can move forward all the way to the end. You can move back 1 all the way to the beginning, or you can create a new record, or you can search for records. So here, when we're taking a look, these will have each piece of data, and I can move through that data as I see fit. And then I'm going to rename the family form as family info. So I can either close it, it'll ask me if I want to save it. I'll say yes, and I can say then family info, once again without any spaces. And you can see then my form. The next thing that we're going to do is create a report, and the report is going to be of the family ID, last name, city, state from the family table. So we're still here in the families, but we have to go to create. And here is the report. So if we use a new report, or if we're working with an option for using the report, we can just go ahead. Once again, mostly we just, if we want all the data, we use report. If we don't, we use the report wizard. So we want to use the report wizard in this case. Notice that is because I have this selected that it shows family, but I can choose any of the options that are here. And for the fields, we want the family ID and the last name, the city, so no street, and the state fields. And then if we take a look, we want to go to the next. This will set us up for it. There isn't any grouping, so we don't have to back up. Sometimes there'll be an automatic grouping and you'll have to back it up. And then, we want to sort by last name in ascending order. And then we'll use the tabular. You can see the other ones, but we use the tabular. Because there's not a whole bunch of data spreading out, we can use portrait. It'll fit just fine. The title of the report, we can go, is family listing. And if we take a look, when we finish, it will show the last name, family ID, city, and state. So once again, just very quick about how to use that options for creating. Pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and close it. And then if I go in here and I try to create a table, I'll go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to create a table. And if I go in Design View, notice these are the fields that I need, and every field that I work with or am using, I just give the name, service code, and I would like an auto number, so I can type that in pretty easily. And this is with the option that we have in our description. We say that this is going to be the primary key. And that's all we have to do for right now. So we'll go ahead and save this. So if we right click, we can say save. What's the name that we would like it? And it's Health Services. Once again, no space. Oh, we were supposed to click on the primary key. Do you want to create a primary key now? I'll say yes, and that's the service code that's there. So professional staff, it's open in datasheet view, and we want to add a new record. So anytime you're adding a new record inside the table, you're just down here in this guy, and that staff ID is the next number, and Kendra is the first name. Last name of sister, and position doctor. Clinic ID for the doctor is 3, and we're good. So with the professional staff, we go ahead and delete a record as well, so that's how we are adding a record. But if we went to Adam and we right click, we can also delete a record. Once it's deleted, it's gone. Are you sure? Yep. So we can add, we can delete, and we can modify. So as we're taking a look for modify those options, we have a 110 here, and instead of Rebecca, we want to change that to Becky. And if we close it, it's all saved and ready to go. You can see that Becky's still there, and our 112 and 100 is gone. Let's get into the patients table. And in the patients table, we're going to add a field, and we can do that by clicking here. And you can see that there are some options for what we're using. and we're going to do a date and time, and the name of the field is going to be date of birth. Be sure to capitalize appropriately, and once again no spaces, and we'll also add another field that is short text. It's going to be gender. And a field named family ID. That is also short text. And you can see that that could be then related to the family table. And this is a secondary key because the family ID is a primary key in the family table. And we'll go ahead and save and close this one. So once again, if we close it, we can see that when we open it, all of these are right there. So it's an auto-saved option. And now any objects that would be open, we'll go ahead and close, but we're pretty much done with the project. I just want to highlight a few things, and that is when we're taking a look at these across the top, remember file we've seen before, so you should be pretty good about doing a few things, but there's some tools in here to help us, and we'll compact and repair in chapter 3. We can also encrypt, and there's our edit properties. When we, and the other thing is if you needed to do a save as, and you wanted to save it as a different type of database because they are not too compatible. Okay. So that's kind of important as well. And then our home option where we can copy and do a few things that we already know how to do from our other applications. External data is where we bring data in, and we can import over here. We export over on this side. So importing a new data source, we tell it where we're getting that data, and then those files will show. So from a database, or from an Excel or text file or something like this. Database tools, we have relationships which are important, and then of course help. So that's, remember access isn't very visible, but when you go in you just double click to open, or you can open with the icon, and notice that if we're in here we can double click and see the new things, and that's the one that we just created with no data, and there's patients. If we go to our view, we can see it in design view. Different data types and field sizes, these are the properties of each one. So if I click on the patient ID, notice that it's 6. I come down here to family ID, which we just added, and it's 255. That's the default. Probably wasting a lot of space. It probably should only be like 2 or 6, depending on how many characters that ID is. Have a queries. We'll be working a lot on queries in Module 2, and how to maintain a database in Module 3. So forms help us move through data, and it's a good way to input data too. It's a little cleaner. And then reports are good for giving out that data, and only the data that you want to share with others. Have a good day, and that's the end of Mod 1.